everyone, and welcome today to Short-Term Rental Revolution. It's the latest thing, and today I'm going to share with you just a snippet of how you can get involved in short-term rentals. So welcome to the Thrive community. I hope you guys are getting around and seeing and learning as much as you can. So today, my biggest thing that I share with you is creating win-win scenarios. That's what I actually feel about real estate investing and in life. Do everything I can for everyone, and that comes back to me tenfold. So today, short-term rentals, or as you guys probably know them as Airbnb, that seems to be the biggest platform, but there's also other names we can call it as well. Short stays, serviced accommodations, corporate housing, Vrbo, to name a few. So let's get started. Today, we're going to take some time and I'm going to discuss some strategies, systems, and I'm going to show you the money. So in strategies, I want to talk about the ownership, rental arbitrage, which a lot of people have questions about, and we're going to talk about co-hosting. Now in the systems, if you're going to self-manage, you can do it with minimal time. We're going to set up some systems to help you do that. And you can manage from anywhere. I have managed my short-term rentals while I have been on vacation in Hawaii over Christmas. So it is doable anywhere. And I'm going to show you some great options for making some passive income. Now let's start off with strategies. Now we have these 3 strategies in order for you to get started in short-term rental business. So the first one is ownership. Now this one takes a little bit more money for you to get involved, or not, depending on what strategy you use. So if you actually have, for example, a multi-unit property, duplex, triplex, 14plex, 12plex, whatever you have, and the property meets the great criteria to run as a short-term rental, which means it's in a great location, it's attracting those avatar guests that you want, then hey, maybe throw a couple in there as short-term rentals and increase your NOI, because isn't that why we're doing this, is to increase our NOI? The other thing too is if you have your personal residence and you have a basement suite, hey, you know what? You don't have to have someone permanently living there, because that can be a pain. I don't know if I want people always in my home, but hey, people on the weekends coming and going, meet people, things like that might be a great option for you to make some money. Other thing too, depending on how open you are, and this was more prior to COVID, is you actually open up a bedroom in your home and you do more of like that communal living type things where you share a kitchen, that kind of thing, and you have a passage lock and it's all secure and stuff like that. So those are the ways you can do it as an owner. You own the property and you get to increase some cash flow. Now, having said that, you just make sure you watch for bylaws. We talk about this a little bit more in the short-term rental course that I offer here in Thrive. Now, the other one I want to talk about is rental arbitrage. Now, people are like, what is that word arbitrage? What does that mean? So what it basically means is you find a property, however you find it. You can do it on RentFaster, Zillow, Facebook Marketplace. You reach out to a fellow investor who is renting out a property and you say, hey, you know what? This is an ideal property. I wish to sign a lease with you for a minimum of 1 year. Because trust me, you don't want to go through all this work for less than a year, because it's a lot of work to set up a property. I know, I've done quite a few. So what you want to do is do a 1-year lease, guarantee their rent. So you say, you know what, for example, every month I am going to pay you $2,000 a month. And they're like, really? Yes. And so then you guarantee, and they're like, what happens if you don't make enough money? Doesn't matter. I guarantee it. You're renting to my company. So you make sure you have full disclosure and you let them know. Again, check bylaws depending on where you are. And what you do is you use OPP, other people's properties. And so what you do is you set up the property, you furnish it, you get it ready to go, and then you rent it out on a short-term rental platform like Airbnb or Vrbo or something like this. So this is actually an example. If you see the photos here on the side of the screen, that's actually one of my properties that I had in Calgary. which was a really great rental arbitrage that I have for about 4 years. It was an amazing property near the university. It was about 20 minutes from the airport, 10 minutes from a couple major hospitals and shopping and sports. So it was a really great rental arbitrage property. The owner was happy. He got his monthly rent, bills were paid. It was really, really great option. So this was rental arbitrage. So this one takes a little bit more money, and I'm going to show an example of the money later on. Now, the other one is a co-host. So now you, for example, have reached out to someone on a rental arbitrage, and it's a furnished property, or maybe it's not, and you say, hey, you know what? Instead of me paying you an X number of dollars per month, what we're going to do is I'm just going to give most of the money to you, and I'm going to take a piece of the pie. So for example, I'm going to help you furnish it by doing the staging and stuff like that. I always get the owners to pay for the furnishings and stuff like that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, set it up the way I want it. I manage the listings, I manage the guests, the cleaning staff, everything, supplies, everything has to do with it. So because of that management and their ownership, so I, for example, it's a 75-25% split. They take, I take 25% and they get 75% of the profits, which is really great scenario if you have an investor who is open to that, because actually the less liability is onto you. So getting 25% of a pie is better than getting no pie, for one thing. I know sometimes I want just a little piece of pie. I don't need to eat the whole piece, the whole pie. So what we're doing here is we're actually creating another win-win scenario, because maybe they were interested in short-term rentals, they don't have time, they don't have the knowledge, but here you are, you step in and it's going to increase the money that they have and they're going to get, which everybody wants to make more money, right? So again, we are creating win-win scenarios for the owners and for yourself to build your business and not having to break the bank. Now, let's talk about the systems that you want to create so you don't actually create more work, because we don't want to do this and create more work, because sometimes this is our side hustle. We still have a job that we go back to day to day, Monday through Friday or whatever it is, and we just want to work on this to start building our cash flow and building our nest egg up. So we don't want to be on the phone or on the computer every time reservation comes in. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we create automated messages. So that initial communication with the guests, reminders, setup rules, the check-in instructions, all can be programmed through your management system and or exactly through Airbnb directly. You actually can set up all the systems and the messages so they flow in the way you want them. When I first started was 2019. Oh my gosh, that was a long time ago. I didn't know this. So this was before Airbnb had set up the automated messages. So every time I had a reservation, I had to make sure I was checking my phone. Oh, message came in. Hello, thank you for your reservation. I type it all up and do all that. Then I'd send them the instructions, and then I do all these other information. Now I have it all set up so when a reservation first comes in, 15 minutes later, I send them a message, and then it's a follow-up from there, which is automatically sending them the check-in instructions, the checkout instructions. Here's an example of the house rules, everything like that. Now, you do still have to monitor the site for direct conversations, like they're like, hey, where's this, where's that? You can also set up those little indicators as well, so you don't have to reach out to them. So again, this is one of the first things you want to set up when you do your listing is the automated messages. It is going to save you tons of time. Now, the second thing you want to set up is your pricing. So in the beginning, again, I'm here because I didn't do it all right. I'm here because sometimes I struggled and I did it the hard way. So in the beginning, First, I started off with 2 properties, then I was up to 14 properties within probably about 6 months. And here I was for each 14 property going through messages, going through pricing. So I'm like, okay, April's coming up here soon. When's Easter? Okay, we need to go in and increase Good Friday to Sunday to make sure. What a hassle for 14 properties. Like, it was astronomical the amount of time I was spending this. All I did was create a job. So what I want to share with you is get a pricing component to it. Now you can use the platform pricing. So it's on Airbnb, it's called smart pricing. Now I tend to not use smart pricing because here's a little thing. Airbnb does not care if you make a profit or not. The only thing they care about is that you get booked, because if they get booked, they get the residual income of the admin fees. So regardless if they're renting out your place for $200 a night or $99 a night, they're going to get their fee. All right. So I make sure that I actually, after a while, after some struggling, I signed on for Price Labs. And there's Wheelhouse, there's a bunch of different ones, but I tended to gravitate towards Price Labs. So now when I go into Price Labs every Monday morning, it takes me honestly about 10-15 minutes to go in, and every Monday I set my base price. And what Price Labs does is it comes in and it regulates and it knows what's happening in the area. Now it's like, okay, you know what? I had a property that was 2 blocks from the Saddle Dome in Calgary. So it would know when the Calgary Flames were playing, it would actually increase it that night. So it automatically did the up and down flow. Now, the other really great thing about using Price Labs is while this is happening, it's actually helping your algorithm on Airbnb, because you need to tweak your listings and show some movement. So with your price movement every 12 to 18 hours, it's actually showing and helping that algorithm. So again, that's really worth it. With Price Labs, what they end up doing is it's charged per property. So the more properties you have, it actually costs less per property, if that makes sense. So if you have 10 properties, it's going to cost you $15 a month. If you have 30 properties, it's going to cost you $10 a month. The more properties you add, the more inexpensive it gets. So it's really great. Really, really great, rather than going through manually and checking. Because if you don't check off that smart pricing on Airbnb, it will mess everything right back up again. So definitely, very shortly after getting your listing up and you're comfortable with it, I would get in a pricing component to that. Now, the other thing, which is really, really critical, is your staff. Now, I don't personally clean. I do my house and I'm fine. But man, the couple times I've had to do a turnover and a clean between guests, I have been so bitchy and so angry. It has not been worth it, because probably somebody didn't show up, or I'm just not that good at beds. I'm about 5'1" and I've got a king size duvet and duvet cover, and I'm trying to get that sucker in there and it is not working. So the best people you can have are really great, reliable turnover staff. So make sure that you take the time and you train them and you have everything in place and checklists, which I will supply in the short-term rental course for you. Checklists for your staff to know exactly what specifications you want. How do you want the bed made? How do you want the pillows looking? What does the kitchen have to look like? What are your standards? Because if anyone has stayed at an Airbnb, it's better than a hotel, right? We are above and beyond cleanliness and service that a hotel would. So we want to make sure everything is really, really good. So the pillows are great, everything's clean, everything's good, and communication. So I have apps that I communicate with my staff with. I'll share all those with you at short-term rentals course. And it just makes the communication so much better. Communication is the key, and making sure that you're transparent of what your expectations are for your staff. Staff is also virtual assistants. If you have any VAs that are helping you with your acquiring properties, or if you're going to be doing them to be maintaining the listings and communications, again, communication, have everything listing down, what you want them to do, very, very specific. Now, listing descriptions is very, very critical as well. Make sure everything is clear and concise in your descriptions so the guest knows ahead of time Let them know how things are going to flow in the property, what things are. Hey, where is the baby gate? The baby gate is in this closet. Where can I find this? Oh, you know what? When you come to this older home in Drumheller, it's an old miner's cabin. The stairs are pretty steep, so just be aware of that. If you have any elderly people, keep them in the bottom bedroom, right? So you want to be more open with them and let them know about little weird things. Like under one of my pictures, one of my properties, there was the bathroom was like a little weird. You had to lock it a certain way. So I actually put that in on the bottom of the photo and things you need to know. So more guests are open to those little cliche little things if you have them open and clear for them to know. So automation, pricing, staff, and your listing descriptions will actually make things a lot easier. Again, the listing descriptions, the more information you can give your guest, less of those little weird conversations you're going to have. Where does the garbage go? Where does this go? We also share with you a manual that you can put in the property if someone wants to look at it old school. You also do manuals in your listing as well. Now, the remote system, if you have an iPhone, you got an iPhone, you can do all of this from wherever in the world. And this is the beautiful Hawaii, where I was at a couple of years ago. And I was there for 10 days before Christmas. And I had guests check in, I had guests check out, I had staff buy supplies. It just went so smooth because even though this is not considered passive income, because you are technically still working at it, it still is something that is laptop and remote that you can do from afar. So great way to get things started. Now, I want to talk about the money, honey, because this is where it's at. This is why, one of the reasons why we're doing it is to show a profit. So let's example, there's that, if you look back on that photo that I took of before, the rental arbitrage, which was a Brentwood property that I had in Calgary. I actually just gave it up last summer. Kind of broke my heart a little bit because it was one of the really first fun properties, great properties I had. The reason why I had to give it up was because bylaws in the city of Calgary changed. And even though I was open and had fully disclosed to the property management in the condo board, even though they were going to give me permission to rent it as a short-term rental, they were making some astronomical requests from me. What they wanted to know was who my guests were, what their telephone numbers were, what their email addresses, how many were there, how much I was making. And then they wanted to charge me a fee on top of that. And I went, you know what? I don't think this is worth it anymore. So I found other properties in other areas, but this one was a little bit near and dear to me, but I'm going to share with you the money that we made in the very short period of time that at one point. So in 2020, when we got the property in July, we only had it running for about 4 months. So we made $15,000. The average expenses, so this was an arbitrage, so it was rent, Wi-Fi, power, and supplies. That came to just under $9,000. So in those 4 months, we made a cash flow of $6,164. Mind you, we did have to put in $10,000. So that included our first month's deposit rent, as well as the furnishings and stuff like that. Now, if you don't have $10,000, that's okay. What you do, you have options. You can either get in an investor, you can put it on credit, you can go to the brick and don't pay for 2 years kind of situation. So there are ways to have this happen. IKEA even offers, credit, but you don't pay for a certain period of time. So there are ways to have this happen. Now, the next year, we made about $11,000. 2022, we made about $10,000. So overall, in 28 months, we made $28,000. So we had the average cash flow of just over $1,000. Now, this ebbed and flows. I'm not going to say every month was $1,000. Some month in Calgary were really busy from May to September. So those months were like $8,000, $6,000, $4,000. And then December, January, February, we made about $500, right? So we just plan it over the whole term of the year. So really actually making $1,000 a month over 28 months, that's pretty decent. What could you do with $1,000 a month? Think about that. I got kids going to college soon. I could do that. Sock it away, take a vacation back to Hawaii. There's lots of things you can do for your $1,000. So this is just one of the examples. This was the rental arbitrage. And now I'm going to show you a co-host. So a co-host is I have an owner who has a property who is, you know what, I don't want you renting it, but I want to make you a partner. Basically what they're doing is they're partnering with you. So we got this property. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, beautiful home in Drumheller. Again, busy season from May to September. And so initial investment that I put in, because the price was furnished, and then the owner paid for the Keurig and the dishes and the really good knives. That's something I always insist. So we put it together. We put in $500 of ourselves because I wanted a chalkboard table in the little dino room for the kids. I know it sounds weird, but it's something I wanted to have for them. Anyway, so in the first 4 months that he had the property, he made $22,753. That's what I gave to him. He probably has his mortgage and his taxes and stuff like that. But what he would have had if he would have rented it out long term, so for $2,500 a month, he would have, for the 4 months, he actually would have only made $10,000. Pretty cool, huh? So not only is his property looked after very, very well, because we have staff in here, it's clean from top to bottom. We have cameras on the outside. I tell you all that in the short-term rental course. But he made really great money, okay, in a very short period of time. Actually, this has been 4 years now, and we're still working with this owner. So in the co-hosting for those 4 months, we made just under $3,000. Again, other people's properties, we're making a profit, and I'm doing it remotely from wherever I want to be, because I have systems in place and everything ready to go to make life smooth, so I don't have to be there hovering and holding hands and doing the turnovers. I do not suggest you get into this business if you want to cut costs by doing the turnovers yourself and meeting each one of the guests. That's okay if you really like that kind of stuff, but you're going to get really fed up with it very, very quickly. You don't want to create a job. All right. So that's kind of all I have to share today. I do want to sign off by saying that currently have about 13 properties, and all are other people's properties, OPP. They're creating cash flow and they're creating win-win scenarios for everyone involved. I've got staff that I'm paying for. Usually my staff are single moms or people that won't get into the workforce. They work. I hire people to do laundry. We drop off laundry at someone's house. They do it, bring it back. So maybe there was an elderly lady last year. She couldn't quite get out to get a job. So we hired her to do laundry, which is something she was more than capable of, and she was very happy. So again, we're creating scenarios for owners, investors, ourselves, and for the people that work with us. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. If you have any questions, reach out to me on the Thrive, and I hope to see you on the short-term rental course. Take care. Bye.
That's awesome, Nina. Thank you so much for taking the time.